Hi guys, another Wednesday in confinement, another video from me, woo! So it is our 5th week going into our 5th week in quarantine, and one of the things I noticed I'm doing a lot more is snacking. I probably could sweat out pretzels. I've been munching on so many pretzels, which is such an American habit, the snacking. And it kind of got me thinking about the stereotype around that French women don't get fat. So I thought this was a perfect time to address this subject and talk a little bit about the whole stereotype of this uber chic, incredibly thin French woman. So in my video today, I'm going to talk about whether or not this stereotype is true, how the French perceive being overweight versus Americans, because this is very different. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 major eating habits that are different between France and the US. So it should give you some tips if you want to eat more like a French woman, because spoiler alert, the French are considered way healthier when it comes to their eating habits than Americans and a majority of the rest of the world. I would love to hear in the comments below what you think about the video, about the French diet. I've also written a blog post that you can check out, and I've done a video with my friend Rosie about what it was like to eat like a Parisian for 1 month that you can also check out here if you haven't seen it. And otherwise, if you like the video and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. And otherwise, you've got a lot of content, so let's get going. First off, the stereotype that French women don't get fat. Of course they do, people! As chic and tiny as some of them may be, the French are also human too, like the rest of us. And over 40% of the world's population was considered overweight in 2019. So it's only natural that there's some French women and men who are also overweight. Actually, 46% of the French female population was considered overweight in 2019. That's almost every other French woman. Now, when we compare these numbers with the US, for example, the numbers are much higher. In the US, it was 68% of every American woman that was considered overweight in 2019. I think overweight statistics are a little bit unclear for me sometimes, because you can be an active, fit, healthy individual and still be classified as overweight. So when we look into obesity rates, which are a little bit more clear about what we're talking about, there are 15% of French women who were classified as obese in 2017. But that's versus 38% of American women who were classified as obese in 2017. So that means that 2.5 times more women in the States were obese than French women. And on top of that, in America, we've got a population that's like 5 times higher than the French population. So the stats definitely show that there are more overweight women in America than there are in France. So something's being done differently in France, and I'll get into eating habits in a little bit. But to spread the stereotype that all French women are these skinny mini Parisian models is not true, and I think it gives a false expectation of what a French woman is if you've never traveled or you've never lived in France. French women are fabulous, and they're fabulous for many things, including the fact that they are beautiful, but they're culturally informed, and they're direct, and they're intelligent, and they're humorous. But to think that all French women looked like, I don't know, the airbrush models on Sports Illustrated magazine is just not true. Now that we're all on the same page about the fact that French women come in many different shapes and sizes, just like American women, and before we get into eating habits, I think it's really important to talk about how weight is perceived in France, because this is very different from the US. Now, the last point was really based on like statistical facts that I found. This one is a lot more based on my personal experience in France and the US. So if you've lived in either of these countries, I'm going to be really curious to know if you have this same impression when you've lived there as well. In the US, I would say that weight is a pretty taboo subject. I would say that weight is very linked to beauty in the US. And most American women are really tired of feeling like society is pushing on them this image of a beautiful woman who is somebody tall and very thin and very wafy, because as we've seen in the statistics, most American women are not like that. And so the problem today is that especially teenagers, but also adult women, are struggling to really like themselves for who they are and their body type because they feel this constant pressure to be something that they're not. So we have a huge movement in the US right now that's all about loving yourself, accepting your body the way it is. You know, everybody's size is different. Everybody should be confident in whatever size that they are. So I would just say that weight, because it's so linked to beauty, I think, becomes a very sensitive subject and becomes very personal, and it's not something that we would address a lot. Yeah. In France, weight seems to me to be more linked to health than beauty. I'm not saying that there's not a beauty aspect to weight in France, there absolutely is, but I think that there's an even stronger health aspect to weight than we see sometimes in the US. So when you see somebody who's overweight, for example, it's often more not a question of beauty and more a question of, are you taking care of yourself? Are you eating well? Are you active enough? So it seems to me that the social pressure in France to be in a normal weight range is actually higher than it is in the US, because I would say society as a whole in France doesn't really embrace the larger, curvier woman, because it's almost like embracing being unhealthy to them. And so weight to me in France seems like less of a taboo personal subject and almost more of like a medical subject. For example, my husband's weight fluctuates depending on how many baguettes he's consuming per day during that period. And when we see my mother-in-law, she does not hesitate to point out if she thinks that Robin has gained any weight. She'll say to him, honey, are you eating healthy? Are you doing enough sports? I can tell you've put on a little bit of weight. And we're talking about like 2 to 5 pounds here. It's like, it's not huge, but I mean, she's noticed and she's comfortable saying something. Guys, let me tell you, when I went to college, I gained the freshman 15, let's call it the freshman 20, freshman 25, and my family did not say a word about it. And when I eventually lost it, nobody said a word about it. And when I moved to France and I discovered a French croissant for the first time, I went home that Christmas and I had gained some weight. Nobody said anything. Another example is Self Magazine, which is a magazine that features content for women in the US about beauty and fitness and health and personal issues. They featured a plus-size model who's also a fat positivity activist on their cover named Tess Holliday. And there was a bit of controversy surrounding the fact that there was a plus-size model on what people saw as a fitness magazine. But for the most part, there was a huge community in the US that really embraced the fact that they were putting a plus-size model on their cover. And the headline next to her said, my health is none of your business. And I just thought this is such an interesting example of this topic because I've never seen anything like that in France, and I don't think that I will anytime soon, because I just think the two countries have very different ways of looking at, weight. To wrap up the video, I definitely wanted to talk to you about some eating habits that are different between France and the US, because no matter how you look at weight or perceive it, the French are considered to be a healthier population than Americans, and they've got very different rules or eating habits from the US. Food is pleasure in France. They have a phrase that's un bon vivant, which is kind of like someone who lives life to their fullest. And in order to be a bon vivant, you need to be somebody that enjoys food and enjoys wine. So I think this kind of goes to tell you that the French love their meals, and they don't just eat carrots and broccoli. I mean, they eat, pork and lamb and beef and desserts and cheese and salads. But their meals are definitely an occasion to sit down and get together. They are 2 hours. Say goodbye to your quick 30-minute lunches. You're eating at your desk, eating on the go. Eating is something to be enjoyed, and when you're going to fuel yourself, you're going to do it together. French don't like eat a cheeseburger and run to the gym like we do in the US. The French are more about, if I have a cheeseburger because I want one, then the next day maybe I'm gonna have a salad, and then maybe for dinner will be fish, and I might pass on that cake and have a peach instead because like I know tomorrow that I'm gonna go out and have a pizza with friends. It's all about balancing. The average French person isn't counting calories, they're not eliminating like massive food groups from their diet. I mean, France is the second largest market for McDonald's. The French do indulge, okay, from time to time, but they're just much more aware about balancing out so that they, in the end of the day, have a pretty healthy, balanced diet. No snacking, which is what made me think about this video in the first place. So the French kind of have like a national eating time in the sense that, you know, breakfast is at 8, lunch is at like 12:31, there's a snack for kids at 4 p.m., and then 8 p.m. is dinner. And of course, like, I mean, I'm saying about. And it's funny because my 4-month-old daughter is now on like the French eating schedule recommended by her pediatrician. And like she literally has her 4 bottles a day like this, and now we're starting to introduce food. And so it starts at a very young age. But adults don't necessarily have a snack at 4 p.m. and they can, but if they do, I mean, my French colleagues, it's like a piece of fruit. In the US, we snack all the time. I mean, there's pretzels, there's chips, there's 100-calorie packs. I mean, kids walk around, you know, holding their snacks every day, all the time. And in France, there's just really an idea that you sit down for a meal and you fuel yourself, and that meal should last you until the next meal, unless you're at a certain age where you need a snack or it's an exceptional day. So try to cut that snacking if you want to be more French. The French love their H2O, so they drink lots and lots and lots of water, and if you want to maybe spice up your water, then you might put some like syrup in it, not maple syrup, but like a flavoring like you would put in a cocktail or something. So you might flavor up your water, or you might do some sparkling water, but you're not really drinking a lot of juice, a lot of carbonated drinks, sodas, like you might see in the US. And it's funny because we're in quarantine right now in France, and so you can only go buy essential groceries right now. And there was a woman, there's a video, and I can't put it in here, so I'll put the link so you can see it's on Twitter, but just a quick video of a woman walking out of the grocery store, and all she has are cans of Coke. Or bottles of Coke. And the police come over and they say, ma'am, these are not essential items. Like, you can't come to the grocery store and get Coke. And I was dying because I'm not so sure that, like, if this were the same rules in the US, that someone would be stopped for getting Coke, because I think, you know, these type of sugary drinks are much more part of our diet than they are in France. So, hey guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I thought it was important to kind of pick apart this mystery and stereotype surrounding the mythical French women don't get fat. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave me any comments letting me know what you think about the video, and otherwise I will see you guys all next Wednesday. Bisous!